Howdy, my name's Ojimbo Blade, and today I'm doing my own tier list. That's right. This is not a reaction video. This is my own thing. Because I think there's a lot of discussions about the tier list. Here's a very important thing up front. Every tier list is a vibes-based tier list, right? Like when you ask people who's the best basketball player of all time, you will get different answers that are not based on objective fact. They will use objective facts as part of their reasons, but at the end of the day, many people will say, you know what, I believe this player is the best. Despite what the evidence might point to, they will go off of gut feelings and vibes. That's it. So most tier lists are vibes-based, and that's totally fine. The point of a tier list is to discuss things. We are here to facilitate discussion. And hopefully those discussions are useful and meaningful for players. This is not a normal tier list. The way I am making this tier list very specific. This is not just here's tier 0 and here's tiers 1. No, these tiers are based on this statement here. These agents blank the end game of ZZZ. And if you're a tier 0 agent, that means you redefine the end game of Zenless. These are your standout exceptional characters. These characters warp the game around them to the point that other agents simply are not on their level. And as part of this, there are a lot of agents that will not be in tier 0. Then we go to tier 1. Tier 1 agents define the end game, or they thrive in the end game, or they excel in the end game, but they are not warping the entire game around them. These are your tier 1 agents. These are your really good agents. And then tier 2, these agents follow the end game. They can keep up with it. They're not pushing out in the lead. They're not dragging too far behind. They're keeping along pretty well at their own pace. Some moments they will do better than others, and sometimes they will struggle more than others. But you know what? They can follow along pretty well, and that's why they're in tier 2. And in tier 3, these agents struggle in the end game. That does not mean they can't do anything. People say if you are in the tier 3, that means you're terrible, unusable, and you can't do anything. That's not true. That just means you have to put in more work. The agents in this tier are weaker than the rest by nature. That does not mean you can't do anything with them. It just means you're going to have to put in more time and effort, probably some more money too. And the agents in tier 4, this is the very bottom. This is for the worst of the worst. These agents completely collapse in the end game of Zenless. There are not going to be very many agents in this tier. This is just the bottom of the barrel. Basically, it's the continuation of the struggle tier. These agents struggle the most, and I just wanted to separate them from the rest of the tier 3 agents. Why am I making my own tier list this time? What was wrong with the system I had set up last time? Well, the issue was, when I was reacting to Pridewind's tier list, it kept dawning on me that, you know what? Pridewin has the ability to create the best tier list ever. They have so much data that they pull from active players to get scores and times from agents, and they can use that to make a tier list that goes above and beyond what anyone else could possibly do on their own. And they don't do that. So, for example, in their most recent update, which is when Norma came out, they put Valina, who was in their version is in 0.5, they put her on a watch list to go into tier 0. Like, oh, okay, so maybe they're deciding, you know, whether or not she'll be tier 0. But no, here's what it reads, quote, "We actually believe Valina to be a tier 0 level, and the only reason she isn't moving is because Ramiel is likely to shake up the Anomaly meta." So their own tier list says, yeah, so Valina shouldn't be where she is, but we don't want to change it. Like, why? Just change it. It's your tier list. Just change it. Put her where she belongs. You admit she belongs. Hire. Just put her there. It's so frustrating. It's very frustrating. So I have a love-hate relationship with Pridewind. They have a lot of good resources and tools for players, but their tier list is lacking. It could be fantastic and wonderful, and it's just not. So I've said, you know what? I'm just going to do it myself. On that topic, hey, where are the 0.5 tiers? We will get to them. I will go in order of this. We will do supports, then defense, then stun, rupture, anomaly, attack. And I'm doing this because I think the supports are more important to talk about, because some of the rankings for the supports is going to help our discussion of these other agents later. This tier list is going to be harsh. Not harsh, but it is not going to be the Pridewind issue of half the cast will not be in tier 0. That's stupid. That's really dumb, and it does not help players understand anything about the game. That is why this statement here is very specific, which is why Nicole is going in tier 2. She is following along with the end game. There is possibly an argument to put her in tier 1, but when I show the rest of the agents, you will quickly understand why she's not in tier 1. So don't get upset. Nicole is really good. This is your really good list. If you're in tier 2, that means you're good. This is not like other lists where if you're not in tier 0, then you're terrible garbage and not worth pulling. Nicole's in tier 2, which means she's really good. And if you're not really good, then you go lower. And the best thing about Nicole is that Nicole is free. Like, you don't have to pay to get Nicole, especially now with the A rank selector in 3.1. You can just choose whichever A ranks you want to get for the exclusive banners. So you can very easily get a Mindscape 6 Nicole. Nicole has defense shred. She does have to keep her debuff on enemies is very short, so she does have to be more active. The better you are at keeping her buff, the higher she will be. This is assuming that you are good at the game. And by good at the game, I mean you are decent at using the character in their ideal teams and setups. If you're terrible with Nicole, then yeah, of course she's gonna be worse, because if you don't ever apply her debuff, then what is she doing? And if you're wonderful, fantastic with Nicole, then she will be better. Do I think she becomes so much better that she goes into tier 1? Probably not, because you'll see the other agents we place there. Next up is Lucy. Lucy, I think she struggles. Again, this does not mean she's terrible. It just means she has to put in more work and effort than other agents. What Lucy is really good at doing is that her damage is actually pretty good, and her buff does apply to the whole team, unlike some of these other supports that we will talk about. But beyond that, her attack buff is just not as high as other agents, and she doesn't quite do enough damage or give the team enough damage compared to the other agents. That does not mean that you can't use a team with Lucy. It just means that she will struggle in her teams. Now, you can create a good team and then put Lucy in there, and that's totally fine. But Lucy is not the backbone of those teams. You can also turn Nicole into a DPS, by the way. Give her a bunch of crit stats and it's great. She can be on field the entire time if you have enough sub DPSs or supports on the team. It's more important for Cecilia, but I'm not like ranking her higher based on like, here's DPS Nicole and here's support Nicole. No, I'll just group it up together. It's much simpler to talk about. Sokaku. Sokaku it's tough for me to rate, because I know that when I rate Sokaku, a very small group of people will get upset because of the discussion around that. I'm going to put Sokaku into tier 3. Maybe there's an argument for tier 2, but I don't think she is going to fit in with the rest of the cast in tier 2. Sokaku is really good, is exceptionally fantastic in the Mono Ice team. The problem is that Sokaku is not the star of the Mono Ice team, it's Miyabi. And when she's not in that team, she's just not as good anywhere else. That doesn't mean she's terrible or awful. Again, this struggle tier. She has to put in more time and effort than other agents, but she can still do things. She can only give her buff to one agent, and she does take a little bit of wind-up time to give her buff in the first place. So she's a bit slow. If she were quicker and she could give her buff to the team, she would easily be in tier 2. But she takes a bit more time and effort. So because of that, I think it is fair to put her in tier 3. And then we get to Rena. And Rena, I am not exactly sure where to put her, because this is not accounting for her potential unlock, really. So I think I'll talk about this now. I'm not going to put her where she belongs right now. I'm going to show this as an example. For those wondering, what are the tier 0.5s? They're going to be something like this. Now, you might be wondering, so wait, what the heck is this 0.5? What's this about? The way this tier list is going to be different from other tier lists. This is not going to be a tier list where an agent goes into 0.5 or 1.5. If you can make a convincing, reasonable, well-explained argument for why that character belongs in tier 0, then we can put them in tier 0 and then drop them down into 0.5. This is not, oh, well, they're really good in tier 1, therefore they're going in tier 0.5. Nope, that's not how that works. If you can't make a good, convincing argument to put them in tier 0, then they cannot go in 0.5. This is the barrier to entry, and this allows us to have some fun discussions that we'll talk about a bit later. And so this also helps us gatekeep, like put a block on having half the cast in tier 0.5 or 1.5. Those are not helpful. Very few agents should be in the 0.5s. The agents that are in the 0.5s are agents that are probably in those tiers, but they have some other weaknesses or flaws that can prevent them from going higher, or have issues that most of the times they will actually go lower or higher depending on the agents or the bosses that you're fighting. The other thing I didn't say earlier is that this tier list will not account for very niche end game buffs. There are a couple things where like, well, this character has this very specific buff, and therefore that means they're tier 0. Like, right, and when that buff goes away in 2 weeks, they will go right back to where they belong. So I'm not accounting for very niche scenarios like that. So the reason I put this here is because in my experience, I am going to rate Rena in, is that the same color? It is not. That is still not the same color. What the heck? There we go. Rena is just not a very good agent right now, especially without her potential unlock. Rena is a pen ratio electric anomaly support. The problem is that there are maybe only 2 agents in the game who ever care about both of those things. It is Grace and it is Yanagi. And outside of that, none of the electric agents care about any of the stuff she's giving. Bernice kind of cares about the pen ratio if you have her like Mindscape 2. Yanagi kind of cares more at like Mindscape 4, but like we are not doing that. The other thing I forgot, A ranks are at Mindscape 6. The standard agents are at Mindscape 2, and all the limited agents are at Mindscape 0. Just because there's a cutoff point of like some standard agents care about their Mindscape 1 or their Mindscape 2, and they're not going to drastically change where they are placed. Rena's not going in tier 4 without her Mindscape 1. However, there are a couple teams where Rena can do stuff. There's always like Grace, Rena, Harumasa. There's like Yanagi, Rena, Harumasa. There are a couple teams where you can argue that she goes into tier 3. But I don't think there are enough teams to confidently put her in tier 3, which is why she goes in 3.5. That's how the 0.5s work. For Rena's potential unlock, I have no clue if it's actually going to change her real placement. Again, even if you buff Rena, there are still not enough teams that really care about what she's giving. It will make her better. I just don't know if it's enough to put her into tier 2. We are still missing enough teams who really want her buffs. And it doesn't help that half the electric cast cares about defense shred and not pen ratio. Looking at you, Cecilia, you can't see her because she's off screen, but looking at you, Cecilia. If all electric agents really loved pen ratio, then yeah, of course, I'd put Rena higher, but electric agents normally don't. And so that's why it's a real struggle for her. Next up is Astra. Astra is going into tier 2. These are not ordered, by the way. They're just in the tier. They're not like ordered within the tier. They are just in the tier. Astra's going in tier 2 because Astra is pretty good, but she only gives her buff to 1 agent at a time. She really does not deal any damage or daze unless you are funny and build a very specific team around like DPS Astra, which is humorous. It's not very good. And she never gets enough decibels consistently enough to get 3 ults. Most supports can get 3 ults in a fight because they are actively doing things. Astra, you will kind of struggle to get 3. Maybe a very specific setup you can get 3, but most of the time you're only getting 2. And she just does not deal enough damage or daze in her teams compared to these other supports. It's not that Astra herself is really bad. Again, she's in tier 2. I think she's really good, but I don't think she is so good that she is thriving in the end game of Zenless. I don't think she is defining the standard for what supports do in Zenless. So that's why she's in tier 2. She's really good in attack teams, but there's another support who is just better than her in those attack teams. And she's not the best in Anomaly teams. She's not the best in Rupture teams. If she were the best for any very specific class of agent, then I could argue her into tier 1. But she's not. There are other supports who are better than her in those teams. So she's following along with the end game, but she is not defining the end game. Again, this is why these words are very specific. Next up, we have Yuzuha. Yuzuha released in version 2.1. Remiel is about to release in version 3.1, and Remiel kind of replaces Yuzuha in her team. You know, Remiel is a dedicated Anomaly support who is just going to be doing a lot of damage too. So unfortunately, I gotta say, Yuzuha is still the best support in the game. Yuzuha's tier 0. If you know, you know. Here's a very short list of reasons why. When Yuzuha released, the game of Zenless literally changed to give enemies in Deadly Assault 10% higher max Anomaly buildup. Ever since Yuzuha released, enemies started getting higher and higher base Anomaly buildup, even outside of Deadly Assault. Just bosses in general now have higher Anomaly buildup requirements. Yuzuha literally redefined the game around her. And even outside of Anomaly teams, she is still one of the best supports for attack teams. She's still one of the best supports for Rupture teams. Like, what do you mean? You just give her Game Ball. The way Yuzuha works, essentially she can transform her attribute. Now you might remember, wait, doesn't Remiel do that? Yes, Yuzuha did that first, and she probably does it better because she has a W engine that synergizes with it called Game Ball. So no matter what team you're using, if you're doing a crits team, she is the best user of Game Ball, period. Not only is she really good in Rupture teams, not only is she really good in attack teams, she's still one of the best agents in Anomaly teams. There is not a better support in the game than Yuzuha. There is not a single team in the game that I could possibly think of where I said, you know what? This team is terrible because of Yuzuha. Like, this team can't do anything, and the reason is because of Yuzuha. I can't possibly think of one. Like, if you can think of any bad team with Yuzuha, I'm confident in saying that Yuzuha is not the reason that that team is bad. For the sake of comparison, we'll talk about Astra real quick. People were comparing when Yuzuha released, who was better, Yuzuha or Astra? And my take on this is that Astra is probably slightly better than Yuzuha in attack teams. And Yuzuha is substantially better than Astra in every other possible team. That is why she's in tier 0. Next up, Lucia. I think Lucia excels in the endgame of Zenless, but I don't think she redefines it. The one reason Lucia is in tier 1 is because she's the only sheer force buffer. She's a support for Rupture teams, but I don't think she does enough for Rupture teams. She gives them crit damage. She gives them sheer force. Like, okay, those are just damage buffs. There are other agents in tier 0 who are literally redefining what teams can do. Yuzuha's in tier 0 because she gives Anomaly buildup to the point where not having her in teams means you can't have enough Anomaly buildup in your teams without Yuzuha. Lucia is just, here's some more damage, which is fine, but that's not redefining your team. Not having Lucia in your team does not mean that you can't do an extra chain attack because you missed out on a build-up requirement for her thing. No, she's just giving you more damage, which is fine, but that's not redefining anything. Lucia also has no real competition, and now that's not the reason why she's not in tier 0, but like, she's not redefining the game because there's nothing to compare her to. If I could only have one of these agents that are on screen right now, I would rather have Yuzuha, because I know for a fact that if I spend 10 bucks for Game Ball, I can just put Yuzuha in every Rupture team, and that would work perfectly fine, assuming they match the attribute of the enemy's weakness. Lucia can't do that. And then I can also swap Yuzuha into every other team, and she's still really good. You can't just swap in Lucia into an attack team and her perform the exact same as before. I've done it as a joke. She does give damage and crit damage. That's fine, but like, that's not good enough. So that's why she's in tier 1. And then we get to Suna. This one might be questionable. I'm not too sure about this. I think I would put Suna at the top of tier 1, but again, these are not ordered within tiers. They're just in the tier. I think Suna is a very, very good, fantastic tier 1 agent, but I don't think she redefines the endgame of Zenless. That's based on my experience. She's incredible. She's wonderful. She's fantastic. She gives a lot of damage and daze to attack teams and to Nangong Suna teams. That's a tight core you can run, so she's really good. She is the best support for attack teams, period. And she is also really good for turbo stun teams. A couple Anomaly teams you can force into doing that, but I don't feel comfortable putting her into tier 0. Again, this is a fantastic tier. If you're in tier 1, then you're a fantastic agent, period. I did mention Game Ball, but I'm going to talk in general about W engines. The agents in this list are not rated based on any specific W engine. The way I phrase this is that if an agent requires a specific W engine to be in a tier, then they probably don't belong in that tier to begin with. So when we get to another agent like Trigger, I'm not going to say here's where Trigger is without her W engine, and here she is with her W engine. If you say, oh, she's in here without her W engine, and she's here with her W engine, it's like, no, if you can't make an argument to put her in tier 3 without her W engine, then she's probably not in tier 3 with her W engine. That's just how that works. So these are the support lists. Look at him. And now I'm going to move him back down to this category, so that way we have a clean slate for the defense agents. Oh, I didn't get to mention this with Lucia. I think it is incredibly scummy for the game to rerun Lucia and then 2 patches later give her out for free. A lot of people got FOMO'd into pulling Lucia for their Starlight Billy, and then they realized she was given away for free, and they were very upset. I think that is incredibly frustrating, which is why I told people, maybe you shouldn't pull for this character on her rerun. You should wait a bit. It's very unfortunate. She will be free in 3.1. You can choose to get her for free among 5 characters. So if you really wanted Lucia, you could have waited 2 months to get her for free, or 2.5 months. I forget the exact timeline. Now let's boost up the defense agent. This is the defense class, and I'm going to put Ben in tier 4. This should not be too much of a surprise. The issue with Ben is that Ben's kit, half of it reads as a support, and half of it reads as a counter DPS, but neither of those are fleshed out enough for him to excel in anything. Potentially, I could put him at highest in tier 3.5, but I think there are enough things going against Ben to put him in tier 4. That does not mean that there are 0 decent Ben teams. That just means that you are going to put in a lot more resources into those teams to get to the same level as the agents who are already struggling in tier 3. Next, we have Seth. I I think Seth is another character where I can put into tier 3.5. So the issue with Seth is not that Seth is bad. If Seth's additional said Anomaly or Electric, I think I could comfortably put him into tier 3, potentially even tier 2, if I felt crazy enough. The problem is that his additional is attributes or faction, and that is extremely limiting. And it stinks because Seth's addition was actually really good. You just can't really activate it in most Anomaly teams. This is on top of the fact that he only gives his buff to one agent at a time. And if you do the whole, oh, well, if you do his chain attack, he can give it to a different agent. That's great. That's awesome. That's fantastic. You know who else gives a buff to the entire team? Yuzuha. Yuzuha doesn't have to worry about that. And guess what? That's still struggling with the character. I think there are enough teams where Seth does buff the team. Like if you do Arya, Seth, Nangong, you are buffing Arya. Basically, Seth is a fill-in for an Anomaly support that maybe you're missing. He is going to struggle in those teams, but he is not terrible. He's just not very good. He's going to struggle in them. So maybe I put him in tier 3. I think I'm going to put in 3.5 just because of his additional. When you have his additional, I think he's definitely in tier 3. When you don't have it, I think he has to drop down. I think he has to drop down lower because of that. Next is Caesar. I think I will put Caesar into tier 3. Caesar is going to be on the exclusive screening loss banner now. Basically, you can now, instead of getting Remiel, you can now get lucky and get Caesar as one of your characters. This is still evaluating her at Mindscape 0. And at Mindscape 0, the problems with Caesar is that she buffs one agent at a time, and her defensive assist roots her into place, so she can't actually hit a lot of enemies with her defensive assist. Every other agent teleports to the enemy, Caesar stays rooted in place, which stinks because like one of the best things about Caesar is that her defensive assist is kind of decent. When it misses so much, she can't go higher. Now, if you are lucky or unlucky enough, depending on your viewpoint, and you end up with Caesar's Mindscape 2. That's a fun discussion. Does Caesar belong in tier 2 if she has more Mindscapes? But this is all at Mindscape 0. So for now, Caesar will be in tier 3. The best thing about Caesar is that you can just press your EX and then not switch to her again. She's just going to give you 1,000 attack, and that's perfectly fine. And some damage buffs as well. I don't think it's good enough for her to follow the end game of Zenless, but she's not so bad that she collapses in the end game. She's not unusable. And by unusable, I mean she's not awful, terrible. She's going to struggle, and that's fine. All right, next up is Pan. Pan goes into tier 2. I think Pan is a pretty good agent for Rupture teams. I think he follows along pretty well with the end game of Zenless. The biggest issue with Pan is that he can only give his sheer force buff through his reverse quick assist or when he starts a chain attack with his EX. And that's kind of a problem because especially Dylan and Norma, they want their DPS to be to the right so that Norma can use her quick assist and the chain attack with that agent, and so that Dylan can get her empowered EXs. And Pan does not play well with that at all. That's why it's kind of hard for Pan. If Pan gave a regular assist, he would actually be much better. But I don't think he'd be so much better that he goes in tier 1. I think Pan's pretty good. And again, for context, Lucia was in tier 1. And the competition for Lucia in Rupture teams is Pan. And I think Pan is pretty good for what he does. He doesn't do that much, but he doesn't have to do that much. Again, Pan is only here in Rupture teams. Like, Pan does not work outside of Rupture teams well at all. But he's good enough in those Rupture teams to follow the end game. Next up is Zhao. Zhao will go into tier 2. I think Zhao follows along really well with the end game of Zenless, but I don't think she is defining the end game. I don't think she is thriving in the end game of Zenless. She's really good. Now, if this were an ordered tier, she would definitely be higher than Pan, but these are unordered, so don't worry about it. Zhao gives a bunch of attacks. She gives a bunch of damage. The issue with Zhao is that she really doesn't do that much. Like, she does this whole thing where she like charges up her attacks to do an attack while she's off field, kind of, but like her damage is not good enough for it to matter. She's good, but she's not so good that she belongs in tier 1. That's crazy. She's not defining the end game of Zenless. She belongs in tier 2. It's also weird that like her kit seems like it should be designed for Rupture teams, and she's just not a Rupture support. It's very unfortunate. Her additional activates with Anomaly agents for some reason. My only guess is they wanted players to use her if they got Arya, but like Arya does not care about Zhao at all, so like why? It's funny. That's it for defense agents. Lynn Torch, you're arguing that Zhao belongs in tier 1. What, Lin Torch? Give me the compelling, reasonable argument to put Zhao into tier 1. That does not have to do with, oh, but Ye Shangguang exists. Zhao is not Ye Shangguang. Ye Shangguang will get her own tier rating. Where does Zhao go in teams? No, Lin Torch, you were not here for the beginning. I was very specific about this. It's a good reminder for people who are new. This is not the list of, oh, well, you know, maybe I think this character belongs in tier 1.5. No. If they do not belong in tier 1, then they cannot be placed in tier 1.5. We are gatekeeping the 0.5s. The 0.5s are exclusive to characters that belong into like tier 1, but maybe have some other weaknesses or flaws that can drop them down a little bit. We are not doing the thing where half the cast is in tier 1 the 0.5s. I hate that. It is not helpful for players. No worries, Lin Torch. It's all good. There's other people who probably came in later who didn't know that too. It's good to refresh people who came in later. What about tier 1.999? That's a great idea. I'll get on that. Here are the stun agents. This is going to be really quick. It's Ambi. She's in tier 4. She does not do enough for teams. She does not actually buff teams in any meaningful way whatsoever. If you're crazy, then you can maybe get 9 energy when she uses a chain attack from her Mindscape 4, and you are an electric agent. That's about it. Yeah, Ambi does not do enough. She collapses in the end game of Zenless. Next is Kaleda. I struggled with this one of like, do I want to put Kaleda into tier 3? It's like, do I think Kaleda is so bad she belongs in tier 4? Possibly. However, we have enough a critical mass of stunners who stun quickly enough where Kaleda does become a slot where in a fire team that does activate her additional and you are stunning quickly enough, then you are buffing your chain attacks. And because Norma does give more chain attacks, there are a critical mass of teams where Kaleda is not in tier 4. So because of that, I will put her in tier 3.5. There is an argument to put her into tier 3, but I don't think she quite fits with the rest of the agents in tier 3. That's why she goes in tier 3.5. Kaleda does a lot of days, and she buffs your chain attacks, and that's it. The issue with Kaleda is a lot of her attacks can just miss if you are very unlucky, and for most teams, her additional is very limiting. It's fire and faction, and her faction does not really synergize with her well at all, and most fire agents would rather have any of these other stunners on here. So Kaleda struggles to find a place to call her home. However, there are a few teams where if you just have Kaleda, you already have a team set up, and you say, oh, you know what, Kaleda can work well in this team. At best, I could put her in tier 3. There is 0 chance she goes into tier 2. She is not following the end. I don't believe Kaleda is a character who follows the end game of Zenless, who keeps up with the end game. I think she struggles. And I think there are a couple teams where she really does not do much of anything. So she'll go in tier 3.5. That is correct. Legend of Tai. Kaleda was one of the first agents to ever get buffed in the game. She got her potential unlocked to work with Rupture agents. None of the Rupture agents want her. So, yeah, if you have Kaleda, and for some reason you already have Norma, and you're like, man, the enemy is stunned, and I'm getting Norma's additional chain attack, and I can run a doubles Rupture stun team. It's like, I guess Kaleda does have a place in those teams. I think that's a very specific niche team. That is not the baseline for Kaleda. That is not something that makes Kaleda good. Those teams are already good, and you're like saying, oh, I guess Kaleda can be put in there. Sure, why not? All right, next up is Lycon. Lycon's really good. This is one I'm really conflicted on. I'm not sure if I want to put Lycon higher or lower. For the sake of this tier list, again, this is a stricter, harsher tier list. Agents at the top end are going to be pushed down. Because of that, like if this were a Pride Win tier list, yeah, I'd put him in tier 1, but this is not a Pride Win tier list. Is Lycon defining the end game of Zenless? I don't think so. I think Lycon's following along really well. I think he is a very high tier 2. I don't think he is exceptional in the end game outside of a couple very specific teams. So Lycon is extremely high tier 2. Extremely high tier 2. He follows along really well. He keeps up with the end game pretty consistently. It's hard to think of a Lycon team for Attack, Rupture, or Anomaly where you say, oh man, Lycon is terrible. He's not doing anything. No, Lycon's really good in most teams. We have enough burst Anomaly teams where Lycon's doing pretty well. The problem is I can't think of a really strong argument to put him into tier 1. I think there are maybe a few teams where he's in tier 1, but I don't, like Hugo, like yeah, Lycon is really good with Hugo, but I don't think Hugo is a high tier agent. So it's like, yeah, Lycon is good in that team, but that team is not good enough. He's goated with Yidhari, that's fair. Next is Ching Yi, and Ching Yi is going in tier 2.5. That's because there are a couple teams where you put Chingy on the team and Chingy is not good enough. Chingy only gives a buff to the team when the enemy is stunned. And there are enough times in the end game where the enemy will just refuse to be stunned. In that scenario, Chingy really can't buff the team in any meaningful way. In the fights where you can't stun enemies, Chingy is definitely tier 3. But in the fights where you can consistently stun enemies, she's tier 2. So we're going with the happy medium of there's a compelling argument to put her in tier 2, and there are enough situations where she probably belongs in tier 3. So we're putting her in tier 2.5. That means there are some teams where, you know what, Chingy is actually better than Lycon. There's some teams where, you know what, Chingy is actually worse than Lycon. Next up is Pulchra. I think she struggles a bit. She's pretty good if you have nothing else. With the best thing about Pulchra is that with the A rank selector, you can now much more easily get her Mindscape 6, which opens up a lot of her team options. But even then, Pulchra simply does not deal enough damage or daze. Her daze is pretty good because she's off field. You don't have to worry about committing to her all the time. I think Pulchra's all right. Relative to the rest of the cast, she still has to struggle a bit. That does not mean she's awful. If she were awful, she'd be down here. I think she's all right. That's why she's in tier 3. She'll struggle a bit, but you can get the job done still. Half of her Mindscapes talk about boosting her damage, and her damage does not matter. It is not ever high enough for those Mindscapes to factor in. Like, oh, if I do my EX, increase my crit rate by X%. It's like, yeah, so that doesn't help, Pulchra. Like, could you give the team more damage or give the team the crit rate? That'd be nice. Give me the crit rate. Next is Lighter. I had a back and forth on this. I think Lighter is a weird case because compared to all of these stunners, you could argue that, oh, if you throw Lighter into any random team, then he's tier 4. It's like, right. But we have enough critical mass of fire and ice agents that I don't think it's fair to be like, oh, if I put him with a physical attacker, he's tier 4. It's like, why would you do that? You would never use Lighter in those teams to begin with. Maybe not never, because I did that as a joke once. I think it is fair to put Lighter into tier 2. I think for fire and ice teams, he gives enough buffs for them. The issue with Lighter is that his daze is not incredible, and his personal damage is also not very, very high. He takes a bit of a while to give his buff to the team. Those are the issues against him. That's enough to put him in tier 2.5, but in my gut tells me to put him in tier 2. I think he follows along pretty well. Also, we are about to get another ice DPS, and by DPS, I mean ice attacker. And would you look at that? Lycon likes to buff ice attackers. Did I say Lycon? I meant Lighter. If his buff worked for Rupture agents, he would still be in tier 2. Because I think the other agents in tier 1 are just better than him. I think he follows along really well. I don't think opening up his additional 2 Rupture teams would make him define the endgame of Zenless. Again, relatively speaking, this is the same tier that Suna and Lucia were in. And Yuzuho was in tier 0. Lighter with his additional always active. Is he defining the end game of Zenless? I don't think he is. That's why he's in tier 2. Next up is Trigger. Trigger goes into tier 2. I think Trigger is pretty good. And yes, this is also including Trigger without her W engine. Trigger's pretty good. You don't have to worry about her too much. She just gives the team an uncontested 25% damage buff at most times. It's a stun damage multiplier that applies outside of stun. You don't have to commit too much with her. Her daze is not that high, but it's high enough so you can stun pretty consistently. Her buff is just really good, and it's consistent. It's hard to mess up with Trigger. The only way you mess up with Trigger is if you switch to her. And how you play Trigger is that you don't really switch to her that much. Goat, I think she's underrated for Anomaly teams because she does not help with their Anomaly buildup. That is like the one issue with her. Yes, before enemies got like much higher Anomaly buildup, Trigger was much better in those teams. But now with the threshold for Anomaly buildup on enemies, Trigger is less useful in those teams. You can still use her, but there's another stunner who is much better at that, and we will get to her very soon. Next is Jufufu. Jufufu is also going into tier 2. I think Jufufu is pretty good. She follows along with the meta pretty well. I don't think she's defining the meta or excelling in it at this point. I think it is fair to say that Jufufu is pretty good, but not fantastic or amazing, which is why I don't think she belongs in tier 1, and that's why she's in tier 2. I don't have much to say about this. She does now have a team that I think she works much better in now with Pyroas, with how Pyroas wants to have more decibels. I think Jufufu's way of increasing your decibel limit, I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know how game-changing that is. I don't have experience with that team personally, but I think that's a pretty good team for Jufufu in theory, based on my very limited understanding. Next up is Dial In. Now this one is a ranking I'm not too sure about. I could be argued to put Dylan in a different tier, but I still think Dylan redefines the end game of Zenless. Her own personal damage output based on your DPS, a free ult whenever you want. This is the joke you've heard a lot of people say, but like, which would you rather have? 300 decibels or 3000 decibels? Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about Dylan right now without talking about Norma, but yeah, Dylan just does a lot of damage without having to do that much. Her rotations are pretty simple. Yeah, there's not really like a matchup I would say that Dylan is terrible or awful in. There are a couple teams, like maybe Hugo doesn't like Dylan, but Hugo is already not going to be in tier 0, so that doesn't matter. Next up is Nangong. Nangong's also going in tier 0. Nangong just does so much. The other fun thing about Nangong is that she's just a DPS. When you read her and her additional, when you read her core, you go, oh wow, so she's just a DPS, and she's even a better DPS with her W engine. You can just do hyper carry Nangong as an Anomaly team, and you will do pretty well. It's not even that she's tier 0 as a stunner. At worst, I would probably put her in like tier 2 as an Anomaly DPS at worst. But she's not a DPS, she's a stunner. Yeah, she just does so much. And even then, you might, oh, she's only good for Anomaly teams. No, that's not true. When you pair her up with Suna, where did Suna go? I put her down here. When she's paired up with Suna, you can kind of just put her in any attack team and she will still give all of her debuffs and stuff. Your chain attacks get that extra Anomaly buildup. That means more anomalies, which means more decibels. So you are also buffing attack teams as well. Again, that's a very specific pairing. So yeah, Nangong is just really good as a stunner. Incredible. Lots of damage for the team. Polarity disorders. She's got it all. She redefines the endgame of Zenless. You can now do things with Anomaly teams that you could never do before. It's incredible. Next up is Norma. Again, everything post Norma's release, including like Remiel and Sigrid, I'm going to be very iffy about because I don't have a ton of experience with these characters. For now, this is a very unsure rating of Norma. I think at the worst, I could put her in tier 1. I think there is maybe an argument to put her into tier 0. But again, I am very unsure about that because I don't have enough experience using her. Norma does a lot. She does a lot. She has a lot of personal damage. She gives you extra chain attacks. A lot of people will claim that she needs her W engine to be in tier 0. I think Norma is good enough without her W engine that she doesn't need it to be placed higher. Norma does a lot of off-field DPS. She has high days. And this is why it's going back to Dylan. I don't know how I feel about this, but I think with how good Norma is, you could make the argument that because of how good Norma is, Dylan loses her niche of being the best stunner for attack and Rupture teams, enough to the point where she drops in relative value. I think there is an argument for that. I think that discussion is interesting. I don't have enough experience using Norma and comparing her with Dylan to make a strong comparison there. I think Norma's fantastic. I think she's excellent. I think she's wonderful. I don't know if she's redefining the end game of Zenless. And that's why this is hard. I don't know if I think Dylan belongs in the redefined tier, or if there are enough teams where she actually drops into tier 1, and that's why we can argue to put her in tier 0.5. There are a couple teams where Dylan contributes more than Norma, and there are some teams where Norma contributes more than Dylan. But they are neck and neck with each other. This is not like Dylan's up here and Norma's down here. It's like, no. They are right next to each other. It's just, do I think Norma is redefining the game or simply excelling in the game? At the bare minimum, she's excelling, period. Like, this is the lowest she could possibly go for right now. Tier 0 because of the Bang Boo hat, that's a good point. Again, the argument is not, do I think she's tier 0.5? The argument is, do I think she's tier 0? And if she is tier 0, does she have enough flaws that drop her down into 0.5? It's tough because Dylan, the way Dylan's kit is worded is that her damage increases based on the attack or Rupture agent you're using, and Norma's is worded so that all the damage is coming from her. So the worse built your agents are, the better Norma is, and the better built your agents are, the better Dylan is in theory. Again, these two characters are neck and neck. I'm not exactly sure where to rate them because they are so close to each other. I don't think they're both up here because I think this is, again, tier 0 should not be this crowded. It might be something like this or this or this and this. They're neck and neck. All right, that's it for stunners. Put you all back where you belong. Next up is the Rupture agents. These are the first of the DPSs, and they're also the smallest class to talk about, so they'll be easier to discuss. I'm going to rate Monato first. I think Monato, I think at bare minimum, Monato is tier 2. However, I think there are enough issues that work against Monato to argue him down into 2.5. Monato is a really good Rupture DPS against a couple of the Rupture fights. That's a joke, because there are only 2 real Rupture fights. The biggest issue with Monato is that his range is very limiting, and there are a couple times when you will just start swinging away at enemies, and they move away, and Monato will just start missing his best moves. That's very frustrating. The other frustrating thing is that this is not being rated exactly, but he has a very hard time keeping up his stacks of Yunque summits, or Yunque tails. It's Yunque tails. Yunque tails is hard to keep at full stacks on him because he doesn't ever have enough adrenaline to use his EX consistently. And there are a couple of times his assist follow-up will start missing because it does not have a very large range. And his attacks are very committal. So in one sense that's nice, convenient for players. Like, you can just commit to the move and not have to worry about getting hit out of his basic 2 and basic 4. But because of that, you also can't cancel them into your special, which is how you counter things. Again, I think he's a tier 2 agent, but has enough weaknesses and flaws to put him down into tier 2.5. Monato is really good. Make him tier 0 because he's the last A rank we get. That's another fun discussion. Because of the new system they have where you can just select whichever A ranks you want, we now have an A rank selector for banners. It's very possible they don't release another A rank. That's kind of troubling to think about. I don't know if that's going to be true. They could just do that because they did give us Pyroas for free. You know, what the next character they give away for free could be when they release Sunbringer, the Elder Sunbringer, because that's normally, they do that normally around the halfway point anyway. Like 2.0, Pan was essentially the free, quote unquote, free agent we got. And then we got Zhao for free in 2.5. Pyroas, you can't see him on screen, but Pyroas is the agent we got for free in 3.0. So like maybe 3.5, we get a free agent-ish? I don't know. Monato did come out in 2.3. At best, we will get a wind agent in like 3.3, 3.2. I would not be surprised if it's 3.3, but we will wait and see. Next up is Yixuan. Here's the problem with Yixuan. I'm putting her here right now because I want to talk about this. In my heart of hearts, I think Yixuan, as of now, is a tier 1 agent. I think she thrives in the end game. I think she excels in the end game. I don't think right now we are at a point where she is redefining the end game of Zenless. However, I think there might be a compelling argument to put her in tier 0. You could argue, oh, but you know, when we bring back the Rupture bosses, that's when she's going to excel because, you know, she's really good in the Rupture fights, like Miasma Priest. And that's a funny topic because, as I will show right now, this boss is suitable for Rupture agents. Then you read her defense, like, wait a second, Miasma Priest has 953 defense, just like every other boss. So how is this a boss for Rupture agents? It's not. It's not a boss for Rupture agents. Use literally anybody. It's fine. What is important is, oh, we got this buff Rupture agents, and then while in an Ether Veil, increase your Ether damage. Oh, that makes her tier 0. It's like, sure. And when this buff goes away in 2 weeks, she'll be right back to where she belongs. That is why I have a hard time rating this character. In the off chance that we get a Rupture boss that is weak to Ether, who also has high defense, and that boss occurs semi-frequently, I do think Yixuan is a tier 0 agent in that fight. The problem is, that does not exist right now. So at best, maybe. I feel like people will get upset if I put her in tier 1. I think the highest she could possibly go right now is 0.5, because I think there is an argument to put her in tier 0. I don't know how good that argument is, though. That's the problem. I'll keep her there for now because I want to talk about the other agents as well. And then we got Yidhari. Yidhari's really good. I think she excels in the end game pretty well. I don't think she's redefining the game. There's not much else to say. She's a Rupture agent. She counters enemies. She does a lot of damage. She's pretty good. She's really good. Next up is Banyue. Banyue is also going in tier 1. Banyue is a little bit more difficult to play. If you are looking at this tier list, I am assuming you are at the very least decent with these characters. I'm also not going to lower Banyue because you can't play him. It's like, oh, I can't play Banyue well at all, so he belongs down in tier 3. It's like, okay, I can play him pretty decently. He goes in tier 1. Like, I'm not trying to be insulting, but like, if you are struggling with an agent that is higher effort, it is true that Banyue is higher effort than a character like Yidhari. My solution to that is figure it out. If you are willing to put in the time and effort, then yeah, he goes into tier 1, period. The biggest issue with Banyue is his ability to generate his resources. He can have difficulty generating his Wrathful Fires and his Decibels. It is possible to work around them. And I've been able to do that pretty consistently. I'm not a fantastic Bond Weight player. I can play him pretty well, but not so well that I would ever say I'm an expert, you know? Next up is Starlight Billy. Starlight Billy is another weird issue where there is not a dedicated Rupture boss because there are only 2 bosses with actual higher defense. Wandering Hunter and then some other random creature that is weak to fire and ice and resists electric. I forgot what it's called, but it's a Shiyu defense enemy. However, in their place, they said, you know what's a good alternative? A good alternative is the Thrall. Hey, you like the Thrall, right? It's like, I guess. Hey, you like these really niche buffs for physical sheer damage? It's like, sure, I guess. In that context, it's like, yeah, I guess you could say he's tier 0, but like, there is not a Rupture boss that is weak to physical. We had a lot of shilling that we're just getting out of. In terms of like damage output, sure, Starlight Billy is slightly ahead of these 2, but I don't know if he really belongs in tier 0 outside of that very niche argument of, what about the end of game Rupture shilling? It's like, yeah, but when that goes away, where does Starlight Billy go? We are kind of just waiting on them to actually make more Rupture bosses. So I personally want to put these 2 into tier 1 because I think they're really good, but I don't think they're redefining the game because we simply don't have enough real Rupture fights in the game. When we get those and they align with their attributes, yeah, I can easily put them into the higher. Why not? As of right now, I personally want to do this. I think some people will be upset about that. If you can make a compelling argument to put them in tier 0, I will gladly put them in tier 0.5. As of now, I don't think I want to put them there. That's it for the Rupture agents. Now let's go to the Anomaly agents. This is gonna be a fun one because these are the I'm talking about some brand new characters. Okay, so this is gonna be weird because a lot of these agents rely on another agent who is at the very end of this list. So I think I will go in order like I've been doing. This is Piper. I think Piper follows along really well in the endgame of Zenless. I don't think there's a decently built Anomaly team where Piper is going to struggle in that team. Now, there are teams Piper will struggle in, but those are normally like teams any character would struggle in. I don't think that's fair for evaluating a character to be like, oh, well, I have Ambi Ben. Piper's bad in that team. It's like, well, yeah, any Anomaly character would be bad in that team. That's not fair. Like, yeah, Piper's an A rank. You can pick her on the selector. She's incredible. She's really good. Her whole stick is Anomaly buildup. And we have enough characters in the game now where you can either put her in a Disorder team if you want. You can put her in a Turbo Stun team with Yuzuha Nangong. You can put her in a team with Valina. Like, there are enough teams where Piper is really good. But I don't think she's defining the end game. Piper is usually not the MVP of her teams. But she's still pretty good in her teams. That's why she's in tier 2. Here is Grace. I am not too experienced with using Grace very well. Again, this is at Mindscape 2. Grace does debuff enemies, electric resistance, and anomaly buildup stuff. I don't know how much better Grace is. At the highest, I could probably say she's in tier 2. I think she can follow along pretty well in the end game. I don't know. Maybe there are a couple teams that she struggles in, and for that reason, maybe I could put her down to 2.5. I am very inexperienced in this opinion, so I will ask you to forgive me if you think she's awful and terrible and she belongs in tier 3. I think we have enough Anomaly teams now where Grace is perfectly fine in those teams. I would probably put Piper over Grace, but again, these are not ordered within the tiers. Next up is Jane. Jane is getting her potential unlocked. But before her potential is unlocked, let's put her in tier 2. Yeah, so Jane is a really good Anomaly agent. The problem is that Jane is not defining the end game of Zenless. She is not excelling to the point where she is drastically beating out Piper right now. When her potential unlocks, maybe then we can have the discussion of putting her into tier 1. I don't know too much about potential unlock Jane. Actually, from what I've been hearing, because in the beta, they've been showing us like Jane, Valina, Remio, like that's the team they've been showcasing. From what I've heard from some people, I haven't watched these runs, but I've heard that like Jane is not really doing as well as the players are hoping she would be doing. And that's kind of funny. Like, you're going through the effort to unlock this character's potential, and even then it's like, does she even go up the tier? I think maybe with her potential unlock, we could argue her into tier 1 and then find reasons to drop her into 1.5. I will play it safe because, again, I don't have too much experience using Jane. I know right now she is struggling to really to put herself above Piper for most teams. I think she could eventually go into tier 1, but I just don't have enough experience with the character or asking the endgame players who do have Jane what their opinions are and their their explanations for why she belongs in one of these two places. Now, if we're talking about Mindscape 2 Jane, oh yeah, put her up here. That's neat. No worries. Put her up here easily. If you ever have Mindscape 2, put her up here. But this is not Mindscape 2 Jane. This is Mindscape 0 Jane. So I think she has to go down here. And even with her potential unlock, I don't know if she goes into tier 1. That's a guess. That's a guess. I am just guessing. Yeah, based on this tier list, I do not think she will define the end game with her potential unlock. I still think she'll be really good. I think she'll be great. But I don't know if she will belong in tier 1 with the rest of those agents. Next is Bernice. Bernice is in a weird situation where they made a bunch of Anomaly bosses that resisted fire. And then they stopped doing that. So she goes into tier 2. We have enough Anomaly teams where you can just throw Bernice in. And yeah, she's pretty good. Now, granted, if you don't have Valina, maybe she drops down. It's probably fair to drop her down if you don't have Valina. Then again, you could drop most of these characters if you don't have Valina, right? But I think you can concoct Bernice teams to the point where, yeah, I think it's fair to put her in tier 2. Maybe I could be argued down to tier 2.5 if we point out enough flaws, but I think it's fine enough to put her in tier 2. Now, without her potential unlock, yeah, put her in tier 3. But she has her potential unlock, so we can put her in tier 2. Again, Nangong Yuzaha. It's the tried and true, just slap a team together and call it a day. Next is Yanagi. This is going to be the same song and dance. As someone who does not have Yanagi, I have a lot of experience to talk about this. You can trust my opinion as someone who does not have this character. I think she goes in tier 2. I think we still have enough teams where Yanagi is perfectly fine, but I don't think she is defining the end game. You could argue that there are teams where she does struggle in, but I do think there are enough teams where she is following along with the end game fine enough. Maybe at the lowest, I could argue her down to tier 2.5 with a couple other characters. But just to be safe, I'm going to put her in tier 2. I've seen a couple runs where they play Yanagi with Valina. And those teams are still pretty good because Valina is still pretty good. There is a fun discussion to have if we include her Mindscape 2. I don't think her Mindscape 2 will push her up, defining the end game or excelling in the end game. I think it is a safe pick to just put her in tier 2. Next is Miyabi. This is why we have the 0.5s. The reason we have the 0.5s is because of Miyabi. Miyabi goes in tier 0.5. Now you might say, what the heck? This isn't true. This can't be true. Why would I put Miyabi in tier 0.5? Because there is a compelling argument to put her in tier 0. Whenever they release a boss or rerun a boss from season 1 that it can be frozen, Miyabi just dumpsters the boss. Miyabi completely makes that boss a trash can. She takes it out and she slaps it. That boss can't do anything. In a mono ice team, Miyabi dumpsters fights when a boss can be frozen. And we have enough bosses rerunning that can be frozen. However, when those bosses disappear, then Miyabi can't do that. And then Miyabi drops down. That is why she is in tier 0.5. There is a compelling, reasonable argument to put her in tier 0, but she has enough flaws to not make her consistently in tier 0. I think upcoming in this Deadly Assault, we are going to get Notorious Dead End Butcher, and guess what? This guy can be frozen. So in version 3.1, when Deadly Assault comes out, Miyabi will dumpster this fight. And in that fight, yeah, Miyabi's tier 0. When there are no freezable bosses, it's like, oh, then like she can't be as good anymore. So like maybe you put her down to like tier 2. But there are enough bosses and fights in the game where she is tier 0. That's why she's in tier 0.5. Next up is Vivian. Vivian's kind of in the same song and dance with all these other agents. I think Vivian's perfectly fine. I think she's following along with the end game pretty well. The issue with Anomaly agents, which we will get to very, very soon, the issue with Anomaly agents is that they're all just kind of in the same boat because a lot of the end game is designed around a couple of these characters down here, and these guys are just kind of tagging along. They're pretty good at tagging along, but they are not defining the end game in any meaningful way. I could maybe be argued down to tier 2.5, but I don't have enough experience with Vivian to be like, oh, she's actually terrible in these teams. That's a personal thing, though. If you would love to put her in tier 2.5, by all means, that's perfectly fine. I think for Alice, where do I put Alice? I was struggling with this opinion. Do I put Alice into tier 1 or tier 2? And the question is, do I think Alice is defining the end game for Anomaly agents right now? And I think the answer is no. So that's why I would not put her in tier 1. Now, again, if we're talking about Mindscape 2 Jane, well, that changes the math on something. But Alice is not Mindscape 2 Jane. Jane is Mindscape 2 Jane. And even this is Mindscape 0 Jane. So I think Alice is pretty good, but she's not so good that she is defining the end game right now. But she is following along pretty well. Yes, Alice is better than all of these agents, but all of these agents have a character who works with them even better. It's hard to rate these Anomaly agents individually, again, because like, for We're going to talk about her real quick. But like in the context of Anomaly teams, there is no like one individual agent that is the only contributing member of the team. They are all working together. And so it's hard to isolate each individual member of that team. Alice also does have a team where you can just not use Jane. Like pretty much all these characters, you can use Nangong Yuzuha. That's a really strong shell you can use with pretty much half of these characters. I am not too sure about the argument to put her in tier 1. There are a couple other characters I will get to that will go in tier 1. So for now, I'm putting Alice in tier 2. I think she is a very high, obviously she's higher than Piper in tier 2, but I don't think she is thriving in the end game right now. Next up is Arya. I think she's really good. I think she's great. She has really high Anomaly buildup, and we have a ton of teams where her burst Anomaly playstyle is exceptionally good, and that's why she goes in tier 1. The way she gets her glow sticks is just really good. There's never been a point where it's like, man, I'm out of energy and glow sticks. I can't do anything. She gets them so easily. I don't have too much to say about Arya. I don't think she's too complicated of a character to talk about. I think the most important member of Arya's teams is not Arya herself. I don't think she's redefining the game, but in the team she's in, she is really good, like exceptionally good. Next is Promia. This is going to be a shot in the dark. I do not have Promia, so I cannot give a strong argument for or against this. I am going to put her in tier 1 and say I think that's where she goes based on the experience I've seen of watching other people use her, watching a couple endgame runs, more than a couple. I do not have Promia, so I cannot say on first-hand experience she's definitely here. I know she's pretty good. Maybe she could be argued down to 1.5. I don't know. From how I've heard people who know more than me talk about this, Arya and Promia are kind of similar enough to be placed together, but I don't think Promia is redefining the game around her. That's why she's in tier 1. Next is Valina. Valina's in tier 0. This should not be a surprise to anybody. Valina is the best of all of these agents. Oh my gosh, Valina's only here because she's a wind agent. And because she has a stranglehold on the wind attribute, every other Anomaly agent has to cater to Valina. It is actually insane. And that's why it's really hard to rate all of these characters. All these characters are just kind of here because, like, obviously you can use Nangong Yuzuha in their teams. Actually, I'll put Nangong Yuzuha up here to remind people where I put them. Now, you can make any of these characters really good with most of these characters, really good with Nangong Yuzuha. You can also make them really good with Valina. How do I phrase this? Valina is mainly here because of wind itself. As we get more wind agents who can do similar enough things to Valina, Valina will drop in relative value. Not because she herself is bad, but because she will no longer have a stranglehold on an entire attribute. When I talked about DPS Nangong, one thing I didn't mention was I did a run with Nangong, Yuzuha, Valina. This team pretty much dumpsters any fight. You do not have Valina's additional, and that doesn't really matter. This team just does a lot. Nangong is your on-field DPS, Yuzuha is your sub DPS, and Valina is also your other sub DPS. This team is just really good. Her mechanic is Wind Bernice. The difference is that Wind is really, really good right now. And until they start making content where Wind is not very good, she will be in tier 0. We need bosses who are basically say, you can't deal any wind damage to me, or agents that just also say, I am Valina but a support, or I'm Valina but a stunner, right? Until we get those, Valina will occupy tier 0. Last but not least, retake that. Last but not least, Remiel. Again, I have not played Remiel. I have no idea where exactly she belongs. So this is a guess. This is an educated guess. Do I think Remiel is as important for Anomaly teams as Nangong, as for Yuzuha, or as Valina? And the answer is no. I don't think Remiel redefines what Anomaly teams can do. Because what Remiel does is she is an agent designed for triple Anomaly teams. So she is very niche. In return, though, you do get a much higher attack buff, and her whole thing of Luminize lets her change her attributes to that of the other agents. That's pretty good. The problem is that that's just what Yuzuha does. Yuzuha already gives your team a lot of attack. She already changes the attribute of her Anomaly buildup to match that of agents. And Yuzuha is good in pretty much every team. Remiel isn't. You cannot throw Remiel into every team and she be good. You can throw Yuzuha into any team and Yuzuha will be good. Remiel is not that character. I think she will define the endgame of Zenless for a pretty long time. I don't know if she's good enough to go into tier 0. Again, that's a guess because I've not had a chance to play this character. What we've been showcased a lot is Jane, Valina, Remiel in the 3.1 live streams and stuff. And that's what they have in the beta as well to play with. I think the most important character in those teams is Valina, period. And next after that is Remiel. And next after that is Jane. Because if you don't have Remiel, What you do is you have Yuzuha, who is going to be on the rerun banner, and Yuzuha will take the place of these characters, and you will still be doing pretty much the exact same things. And that's why I don't think I can rate Remiel as of right now, based on my experience, or I should say lack of experience using Remiel. I can't in good conscience place her as a character who redefines the endgame of Zenless. Now, she's still really good. Again, she is thriving. She is defining the endgame, but she is not redefining the endgame. If you already have Yuzuha, then you will kind of be like double dipping it. I guess now you can make 2 really good Anomaly teams, but if you're looking for just 1 really good Anomaly team and you already have Yuzuha, I don't think Remiel helps you too much with that. That's a personal take. I will need to have more experience using the character, but that's it for the Anomaly agents. Again, this is kind of janky because if we take Valina out of the picture, this list changes entirely. But because Valina's here, it's hard to talk about these agents in isolation. Because like, oh, well, I'll just ignore that Valina exists. It's like, okay, but like, even without Valina, we have Nangong Yuzuha. Even if you don't have Nangong, you can also like throw in Lycon for Arya, or throw in Lycon for Promia. There are enough teams where these agents are not, I don't think any of these agents belong in tier 3. And that's why they're kind of all in tier 2. Anyway, that's it. That's it for the Anomaly agents. I think Remiel will still be really good. I don't think she is in tier 0 the same way that Yuzuha and Nangong are tier 0. Because again, Nangong, you can just toss her with Suna, and she's an incredible stunner for attack teams. You can't do that with Remiel. You can't throw Remiel into an attack team and like that. She doesn't want that team. And again, also, I think supports are just better in general than DPSs, because you can have great supports that will really elevate your DPSs. It's hard to find a DPS who really elevates your supports. Now for the largest class, attackers. First up is Billy, A rank Billy. I think Billy struggles in the game, period. That's it. Like, there's not much else to say. I think he struggles. But next up is Corrin. I think Corrin is also pretty good, but I still think she struggles a lot. Now, here's the funny thing. If we were really taking agents in a vacuum and evaluating them individually, solo Billy is actually pretty good. Solo Corrin is awful. You have seen me do solo Billy stuff because solo Billy can actually do things. You will never catch a Corrin main doing solo Corrin stuff because solo Corrin is awful. Now, because we have teams of 3, the teams you are using with Corrin cover up her weaknesses. So that's not going to be an issue. I think Corrin is pretty good. We have also had a lot of physical weak enemies recently. I think those are kind of dying down a little bit. Corrin has been pretty good in her best teams. I don't know if she is good enough to be placed in tier 2. I still think it's a bit of a struggle to use Corrin, but she is a very high tier 3. I could maybe be convinced to put her in tier 2, and then we could drop her down maybe to tier 2.5, but as of now, I think tier 3 is a fair placement. Next is Nekomata. I'm doing the physical agents together just because it makes sense. Nekomata, this is at Mindscape 2 because she's a standard agent. It's more likely that you can get this. The issue with Nekomata is that Nekomata's kit right now, you would think she cares about back attacks, and then you read what she does and you're like, wow, so she doesn't actually do anything with back attacks. It's only her W engine and her Mindscape 1. I think Nekomata is good enough to, at bare minimum, be placed in tier 3. And when she gets her potential unlocked, I'm not going to spoil the gameplay. Nekomata is getting a new move. This new move has a damage multiplier of 2,527 at rank 12. That's really high. So yeah, that's a big number. Big number do big damage. So I think when Nekomata gets her potential unlocked, I could see an argument to bump her up into tier 2. And maybe we could argue her back down to tier 2.5. And yes, even at base, at Mindscape 2, she is stronger than Corrin. So here's the way this works. Billy is a very independent agent who kind of does whatever he wants. Corrin is a very team-dependent agent. So you have a really bad team, Corrin performs much worse. If you have a really good team, Corrin performs much better. And Nekomata at Mindscape 2 does perform better than both of them. But not so much better that I think I could put her into tier 2. She will still struggle a bit. One of Nekomata's biggest issues is the range of her attacks and like the weird way of how you have to use a dash attack between her, or a regular basic in between her EXs because she'll be too far away. But with her potential unlock, I think I can definitely put her up here based on the very limited information that I have right now. This is Anton. Anton is a character who is sometimes in tier 3 if you play him in the right team and he doesn't leave his burst mode. And when you play him in a team where he does leave his burst mode, he's in tier 4. That's why he goes in tier 3.5. When you have the right team and he doesn't leave burst mode, he's actually pretty good. But that is very hard to do, and he struggles to do that. Soldier 11. Soldier 11 is another character I think belongs in tier 2. But I think I want to argue her down to 2.5. And that is because Soldier 11's range is still an issue. There are a couple fights, and I said this for Monato. Monato's issue is that there are a couple moves he has where he will just miss because enemies do not stay still. Soldier 11 has a similar issue. Her range is not very good on her basics, and that's like kind of the main focus of her damage. The difference between that and Nekomata is that Nekomata's basics don't really matter for her damage. Soldier 11 does. If you miss with Nekomata's basics, that's kind of annoying, but you're kind of all right with that. If you miss with Soldier 11's basics, that's really annoying, and you really don't like that. One of my more recent videos, I did Soldier 11, but it was X23. It was a Marvel vs. Capcom 3 video. There are a couple fights with Starlight Billy where he will just run circles around Soldier 11 and you will just miss. When he's in his motorcycle, Soldier 11 just does not have the range to hit him with her basics. It is kind of frustrating. Now, if we take into account Mindscape 6, Soldier 11, then we can say, oh, her damage is high, but she still has a range issue, so we can argue her down. But at Mindscape 2, I still think I don't think she has enough damage in her kit, and she still struggles with her range enough where she will just miss on the attacks that you really want to connect with. And the difference is I don't think Nekomata with her potential unlock will be missing with her high power damage moves, based on how little I know. So this is Ellen. Ellen was the first character released in the game. And when Ellen released in the game, you can actually play this character now. If you play Ellen as she was released, she does belong in tier 4. Launch Ellen is really bad. And if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. I encourage you to go to the game right now, boot up Ellen, turn off her potential unlock, and play her. Yes, she's worse than Anton. Yes, she's worse than Corrin. Yes, she's worse than Billy. But Ellen does have a potential unlock, so that's why she goes into tier 2. I think she follows along pretty well with the meta. I don't think she defines it. I don't think she's thriving in it. But I don't think she's so bad that she's struggling. And that's why she goes into tier 2. The biggest issue is she still kind of has to charge up her moves if you don't have her Mindscape 1, of course. Mindscape 1 makes it a bit easier to keep more flash freeze charges. But overall, I think she's perfectly fine in tier 2. She's pretty good. She's not so awful that you can't do stuff. Maybe her personal damage is on the lower side, so maybe that's an argument to put her in tier 2. 2.5, I mean. But I think she is okay in tier 2, right where she is. Terox, yes, you can turn off potential unlocks. Let me show that real quick. You go to the Agents tab. You go to Ellen. You go to Base. You go to Skills. Which one is it in? Oh, right, it's under here. You can't see it because my face is in the way. Down here in the Skills page, it says Activate Potential. You turn this off, and Ellen becomes the worst DPS in the game. Actually, no, worse than Ben, because Ben can actually be a counter DPS. Ellen barely functions in getting her flash freeze charges. She will get hit out of everything, and enemies are simply too fast in this game now. At launch, enemies were a lot slower. They were not as active, but now that enemies are much more active, launch Ellen is down here, and potential unlock Ellen is probably somewhere around here. Now for Juyen. I think Juyen is a struggle agent. There is a way to maximize her damage output. It's really fun. There are a couple guys from a creator, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I did show him in my live stream. His name was like SC Sweater or something. Yeah, Sweater SC. Thank you, Terox. He is a really good Juyen guide if you want to get into Juyen. Now, the best thing about Juyen is that she will be a character you could potentially get if you lose on the 50-50. The problem is that everyone has this character, and this character just is substantially better than her, and so it's tough competition. That doesn't mean you can't use her. I'm not rating her low because of Pyroas. Even if Pyroas weren't in the game, I would still place her down here. She can struggle getting her resources, and then the way her kit works is that it really buffs that resource and only that resource. When there are other parts of her kit you wish got buffed instead. So it buffs her enhanced basic and dash attacks, but not like her chain attack, not her ultimate, not her EX. And with potential unlocks, a lot of them have been saying, hey, Ellen has buffed basics, but what if we also buffed her chain and her ultimate and other moves? If Juyen got that, then yeah, she'd probably be rated higher, but she doesn't have that. Now, eventually you could become lucky or unlucky enough to get a Mindscape 6 Juyen. I still don't know if I would put her in the tier 2 category. That's a fun discussion, but I will pass on that for now. Harumasa. Okay, I don't know how to rate this character properly because my experience in playing Harumasa is only playing him in joke teams. So I can find a thumbnail that I made a long time ago for this. I can show y'all what I mean. So here's my best experience using Harumasa is in a team like this. So this is not a good team for Harumasa. Harumasa belongs in tier 1. However, I do not have enough personal experience using Harumasa to make this as a strong statement. So in my fear, in my terror, part of me wants to put him down to 1.5. If I do that, though, I know R2 will call me a coward. let me do what I did last time for the Anomaly agents, give some context for the ratings for these other characters. Relevant for attacker conversations. According to R2, Haramasa's best team is Haramasa, Dialin, Yuzuha, and that is the exact same team that is rerunning. Haramasa just has a lot of teams he can be put into because his team builds are so technically generic, and as soon as we get like a win support, that will also open up new things for Haramasa's Anomaly buildup and stun teams. That is why I can say that Haramasa belongs in tier 1. I just don't have enough personal experience using Haramasa well, but I know for a fact he does not belong in tier 2. He does not follow along with the meta. I think there are enough teams where he really thrives. He excels in those teams pretty well. So I think bare minimum he belongs in tier 1, and I'm just not sure if I should put him in tier 1 or tier 1.5. For now, I will put him in 1.5 for these upcoming characters we will talk about. And then we can move him again later, because that might be fun. Evelyn. Evelyn's pretty good. I think Evelyn follows along the end game pretty well. One of the biggest issues with Evelyn is that we are just getting her power level is just not quite what it is compared to the rest of the new DPSs. But she's not so bad that I think she belongs down here. Her attacks hit pretty well. She's pretty good. I think she can keep up pretty well, especially if you have the newest DPSs. Like if you have Norma and Suna, like I can't imagine Evelyn being terrible in a Norma Suna team. Next is Soldier Zero Ambi. I think Soldier Zero Ambi is a tier 1 agent, but I think she's a tier 1 agent with a very specific team setup that she wants. If we're talking about unpotential unlocked Soldier Zero Ambi, probably like down here-ish, because I think she's okay, but she struggles a lot. And unpotential unlocked Haramasa is probably down here as well. But her potential is unlocked, so I will guesstimate that she belongs kind of in this region. The biggest issue with her is that she wants... Do I spoil this now or spoil this later? It involves Cecilia. I'll spoil it now because I think it's funny. I did a run recently today, and this is a score I got. This is a pretty, reasonable score for this team. Not too great, not too bad, pretty good. This is Soldier Zero Ambi Trigger Suna. And if you saw me do another one of my more recent videos, I did Soldier Zero Ambi Trigger Orphe. And it got about the same similar kind of score. But then I did another run where I used Cecilia. And, well, yeah, this score is a bit lower, That's because Soldier Zero Ambi is better, right? No. It's because my Soldier Zero Ambi looks like this. That's a Mindscape 2. This is a potential unlock 2. That wouldn't really change where she's placed. And she has her W engine. This is my Cecilia. Mindscape 0 Brimstone. So if you go back to that picture, this is kind of an issue. Yeah, that's not a great look for Soldier Zero Ambi. I'm sorry. This is why it's like, do I think Soldier Zero Ambi, Mindscape 0, is a tier 1 agent? Yes, in a very specific team. I could argue her into tier 1, but I don't think she is on the same power level as the other agents in tier 1. That is why she would drop down to 1.5, period. Granted, it's a bit harder to judge Shiyu defense scores because of how the timer system works and whatnot. Even in her best team, which is Orphe, then again, Orphe does not have her W engine in my team, but that should not be a factor when she's Mindscape 2. In my experience, Soldier Zero Ambi is a tier 1 agent that requires or wants a very specific team. And when you don't have that very specific team, I don't think she is good enough to be among the rest of the characters in tier 1. So she will drop down a bit to tier 1.5. Next up is Hugo. Hugo is a character that I think follows along the meta pretty well. The problem with Hugo is that Hugo is quite literally a hit or miss character. There are a couple setups where Hugo turbo stomps things in the game, and a couple setups where Hugo will struggle to do basically anything. And in those teams, I think at best, maybe I could put him in tier 1 and then say he has enough flaws to be tier 1.5. Personally, I think he belongs in tier 2, which is good. I think he follows along the end game pretty well. And then there are a couple fights where he will struggle a bit more than others. If he can overcome those struggles, obviously he's tier 2. When he doesn't overcome those struggles, I think he will drop down more than others. This is why this sentence is really important up here. I think Hugo follows along the end game pretty well, but there are a couple fights he struggles more than others. So that's why he will be lower than the rest of these characters. This is Seed. Seed is another character who is a tier 1 agent. In theory, Seed is an attack DPS who can be played alongside any other attack agent. The problem is that we do not have enough attack agents for that to be a thing to put her in tier 1. You've probably heard this before. Cecilia is in tier X if you have Seed. I think the other way around is true. Seed is only in tier X if you have Cecilia. If you don't have Cecilia, then Seed is much weaker. So for that reason, I think it is fair to put Seed in tier 1.5. And this begs the question, which of these electric attack agents do I think is the best? In the best builds of these teams, maybe Seed is? As a player who doesn't have Seed, I have the experience to talk about this. So the difference is, Haramasa is a highly skill-intensive character. Using Haramasa really well requires you to hone a lot of skills throughout the game, including but not limited to anomaly buildup, chain attack timing, stun windows, team buildings, team moves that do a certain amount of days or anomaly buildup. It's really fun to play around. But if you don't hone those skills, he obviously drops in value. I will assume you will get semi-decent at those skills. Not perfect. None of this is requiring perfect skill execution. And then Seed is like, well, yeah, you can play Seed with Yesheng Wang, and that team might even be okay, but that team is not okay because of Seed. Yeah, I'm not sure my gut is telling me that Haramasa has more teams where he is better than these characters to put him higher. I'll leave this for now and come back to if I feel differently later. This is Orphe. I think Orphe can follow along pretty well, even in non-Aftershock teams. Orphe is an Aftershock sub DPS. But you can also play her without that, and she can kind of do okay. You can force her in a team with Norma. You can force her in a team with Lighter, and those teams are pretty decent. If those teams did not exist, yeah, I would drop her down probably here, but I think there are enough generalist teams where you can throw in Orphe and she will be okay. Maybe not as well as some of these other characters. I think she is at the lower end of this tier 2, but I don't think she has like flaws with range like Soldier 11 or flaws like Hugo, where if your team can't stun the enemy, then Hugo really can't do anything. Orphe doesn't have those flaws, so I would not argue her down. And that's it for Orphe. Here's Cecilia. Cecilia is the tier 1 attacker. Out of all the electric agents, Cecilia is the best, period. As I just showed, I don't even have Cecilia's W engine. There was a time when I was saying that Seed was better than Cecilia. I believe that because I was building Cecilia incorrectly. And when I realized what her best build was with the resources that I had, I realized that, oh no, this is actually makes Cecilia really good now. The other thing Cecilia does is Cecilia props up other agents in a way that other characters don't. Yeah, Orphe buffs Aftershock DPSs, all one of them. We have one Aftershock DPS. Cecilia is an electric attacker who buffs up pretty much any electric agent that would like to be paired with her. Qingyi is a better stunner because of Cecilia. Cecilia Qingyi is a core you can use that is pretty good against most bosses that are weak to electric. You just stun the enemy so quickly with this team. I'm just using that as a specific example. You can use Hyper Carry Cecilia. You can put her as like a sub DPS for one of these 3 characters if you feel like it. I've done it before. It's not that good, but it's not bad. And because of that, I think Cecilia really does define and thrive in the endgame of Zenless. And because it's tied to an attribute, and we have a critical mass of that attribute, I think Cecilia does really well. She will only get better the more electric agents we get. Now, granted, if we just stop getting electric agents in general, and the endgame is just full of electric resistant enemies, then yeah, she will drop in value, as will any other character like that. But for now, I think putting her lower than tier 1 would be silly. Next is Pyroas. Pyroas goes in tier 1. This guy just does everything. This guy is the guy. And the best part is he's available for free, and we're going to get his Mindscape 6 eventually. Whatever that does, I have no clue. This dude has a lot of ults. He's got a parry. He's got an enhanced basic attack that he can do out of pretty much every move in his kit. We do get his W engine for free. I'm not rating him highly because of that. But yeah, Pyroas is just that guy. He is only going to get better. He has so many generic teams you can just slot him with. You can use him with Jafufu, or Norma, or Dialin, or Niangong with Suna. You can use him with Astra. You can use him with Nicole. Like, he just has a lot of generic teams that he will excel in. It's hard to think of a team where like, no, this team's actually terrible unless the team itself is already not good. Throw Yuzuha in his team. That's perfect. Pyroas' left ult basically says you deal more damage when the enemy has like contamination, I think. This is off the top of my head. And then contamination is the debuff enemies have when they're under the wind anomaly, I think. Like when you trigger windswept, the enemy now is contaminated. I might be wrong about that. So the problem with that is that we don't have enough wind agents in the game for Pyroas to do anything with that. So as we get, again, maybe someone could argue me that he has flaws to be knocked down to tier 1.5. You could not convince me that he is only following the end game. Pyroas is dumpstering pretty much every attack boss in this game. I'm going to cheat the system. I'm going to talk about Sigrid first. Sigrid has not released yet. I have not had a chance to play her. From my bare minimum understanding of the character, she will probably be in tier 1 at the bare minimum. She will be an ice DPS who has enhanced basic attacks and does a lot of other things. Yeah, that's about it. I think she will thrive in the end game. I don't think she will redefine what attackers are doing. Last, but certainly not least, it's her, the Void Hunter character. Okay, so this character is a tier 0 agent when you have Dialin and or Suna and or Zhao. The problem is that when your account does not have any of these 3 characters, Ye Xiongguang is substantially worse. If you have an account that does not have those 3 characters, she probably is in tier 1. If you have an account with these 3 characters, she is entering her enlightened state, dumps all of her damage very easily. So for that reason, it's like, wait, so she is so dependent on a very select group of agents. Does that mean she belongs in tier 0? Or does that mean she belongs in tier 1? In comparison, Nekomata does not have any of those issues. Nekomata has much more team options where she will do pretty much the same thing she's still doing. Whereas Ye Xiongguang, if you do not have these 3 specific agents, she will be doing much less because she just does not get enough ether veils to be in her enlightened state the entire fight. What if you have Lucia? Here's the funny thing. Lucia refreshes her ether veil. Ye Xiongguang wants new ether veil activations. Zhao reactivates her ether veil. Suna activates an ether veil, and Dylan just gives an ult, which is basically her ether veil. Lucia and Yitari as well refresh their ether veil. They do not activate it again. So that's why Lucia is not very good with her. The dark horse in this discussion is Cecilia, because Cecilia, I know all of you forgot about this because it doesn't matter for anything. Cecilia does have an ether veil. But Cecilia and Ye Xiongguang do not want to be in the same teams, so it doesn't matter. There are some players who only pull for Void Hunters and no one else. There are enough accounts that you could definitely argue someone pulled for Ye Xiongguang and they did not have any of these 3 characters for her. And in that team, is Ye Xiongguang tier 0? No, I don't think Ye Xiongguang, without these 3 characters, redefines the endgame of Zenless. I think she's still really good. I think she excels in the endgame because of her enlightened state. And the more you can get into that enlightened state, the more meta-defining she is. But when you can't do that, she is not redefining the game. She's defining it, but not redefining it. The game is not warping around her when she is not able to constantly enter her enlightened state. So because of that, I think with a heavy heart, I'm putting her in tier 0.5. Again, she is still tier 0. Now, to be fair, I did not mention this with the Anomaly teams. You could say the same thing with the Anomaly teams. Like, oh, if you don't have Yuzuha and Nangong and Valina, then none of these characters are that good. It's like, that's true, that's fair. And that's why this is a hard discussion for me. Because again, Ye Xiongguang is the star of her teams. But as soon as you remove the supporting cast from her team, she suffers immensely. So bare minimum, she's tier 1. In her best team, she's tier 0. And then there's like a uncanny valley in between where I'm not sure where she belongs. To satiate the desires of the people, I think I will keep her in tier 0. But just understand, I really want to put her in tier 0.5. Because I think that'd be funny. But yeah, by far, she is tier 0. If anyone thinks I'm undervaluing her, no. She is in the tier 0 because she's tier 0. It's just, the question is, what agents do you have on your account? Do you have Suna? No. Do you have Zhao? No. Do you have Dylan? No. Oh, then she's not there. Do you have Suna? Oh yeah. Do you have Zhao? Yeah. Oh yeah, then she's tier 0, of course. That's the tier list. That's all the agents. Also, the other thing is that the stronger that Nekomata becomes, the less groundbreaking Ye Xiongguang is, because Nekomata has much more flexible teams where she will be able to deal her ideal damage, and Ye Xiongguang is much more limiting. And as we get new supports who don't have anything to do with Ether Veil, Nekomata will go up in relative value, and Ye Xiongguang will kind of stay exactly where she is, because she cannot pivot to new characters unless they activate Ether Veils. Or they're like Dylan, we're just, here's your ultimate again. Unless we get a support that is just, I'm going to activate your ultimate again, then maybe, yeah, sure, that's fine. As Dragiris has mentioned, potential unlock Nekomata, Mindscape 6, Steel Cushion rank 5, might be a tier 1 agent. Might be able to put Ye Xiongguang to shame. Which is a good thing for players. Like, I warned you, like, hey, be careful. Maybe, like, be cautious about pulling for this character, because look at that. They unlock Nekomata's potential right after, and if you are lucky or unlucky enough and you have a Mindscape 6 Nekomata, she will probably do really well. Really well. It's not that Ye Xiongguang is on fraud watch. It's that Ye Xiongguang is a niche, overpowered character, kind of like Miyabi. Miyabi is in the exact same category for a different reason. Miyabi is in here because she has a very accessible team that elevates her power to extreme potential. The problem is she is reliant on enemies who can be frozen. Ye Xiongguang is a character who completely dumpsters on pretty much every enemy in the game, but she is reliant on a very select group of supports who reactivate Ether Veils and activates her ultimate. And when she doesn't have them, then she does not really perform as well as she could. And that's it for the tier list. That's all the agents. Look at that. That wasn't so hard. And again, none of these agents are not ordered within the tiers. They are just in the tier where they belong. Yeah, that's all I got. Subscribe if you feel like it. You don't have to. Leave a comment, leave a like. If you really want to support the channel, you can consider becoming a sponsor of the channel. You could bribe me to put these agents in different tier lists. My name's Yojimbo Blade, and I hope you all have a blessed day. See you soon. Like and subscribe. Be sure to smash that like button.